Why not, right? Let's just do like a shimmy to like get all the moms
Get it all
out,
out, get
like,
it all out.
oh, the mom shakes,
Yes. Yes. All
all
of
the
it.
things.
All of it.
I'm so excited to be here with you today, my friend.
Thank you. I feel the same way about you. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
I know all about motherhood and all the things. There's so many things that I want to dive in with you today. I feel like, Kate, but let's start with, I would love to know like about your motherhood journey, because I know you have your own kids, but then I know you do something where you like live somewhere and you're not fostering, but like you live in a home with boys that are going to school, right?
Correct. Yes.
Can
Boarding
you
school.
like just kind of like fill me in on that? Like, how did that happen? How did you and your husband get started with that? I'm so curious.
Yes, of course. So Trinity is good. She's going to be 14. So she's 13 now. I had her in 2008. And then I had Sydney in 2010. But when I was still pregnant with her, there were these people that came to our church from the boarding school that we work in. And they kind of did their spiel. And I was like, this is not happening. Friends of ours had done what's called relief house parenting, where they would come on the weekends. So there's a schedule that's 12-2, where the house parents work 12 days, off 2 days. So they'd be off like Friday at like 6 through Sunday at 9:30. So the relief house parents would cover, so those parents could have a break. And he was excited about this. And I was like, no, this is never going to happen. You're insane. Like, I'm pregnant. I have like a year and a half old. Like, I'm not going to live in a house with 12 kids and clean a large house. And no, it's not going to happen. So these people came and talked at our church, and I just still pregnant with Sydney at this time. And I just felt like on my way out, like, I'm a Christian and I'm a believer. And I just felt like the Holy Spirit was like, yeah, but you're gonna.
Yeah.
So we applied, did all of that, and everything went through. And we started in October 2010. And Sydney was born by then. So I had a 6-month-old and a toddler. So I was nursing and doing all the things. And we came and we moved on campus. And when you first come, you do not get a house of your own. So you do what is called flexing. So you move around a lot, and you basically are the substitute house parents, so to speak, for house parents who are on their vacation days, or if they are, both sick, you cover the home, or if one of them is out sick or out, because of surgery, you assist the other house parent in the home. So all sorts of things. So we did this. We were placed in senior division with the high schoolers, 9th to 11th graders. So we would go from home to home to home, whatever coverage needs that they need. Sometimes it would be a week at a time. Sometimes it would be a weekend. Sometimes it would be a day here or a day there. And we moved around for 13 months.
Wow.
Yes. So when we were off, we would have our own place to stay. But you can imagine moving around for 13 months, you're literally sleeping in a different bed when you're covering, because you're staying overnight many times. You're serving kids, learning new routines, meeting new house parents constantly. So it's called flexing because you have to be very flexible.
Yeah.
So we did that for 13 months, and then we got a house of our own, high school girls. So we moved in there, and then we had high school girls for 7.5 years. And then, if you can imagine, we got burnt out with high school girls. Living with 12 of them every year for 7.5 years. I had 2 little girls that were growing up, and I also decided to homeschool on top of that. So there was never a break. And so we weren't ready to leave the school at the time. So we decided to request, which a lot of house parents have done, and you can do, request to come to the elementary division because, smaller kids, less problems. Most of the time, they don't have
problems.
Smaller problems.
Smaller, not maybe less, but smaller.
Yes. Different, more manageable, much more manageable. Because all they want to do is play. So we were approved to come down to the elementary division. But again, we couldn't just move into a home. We had to go back to flexing.
Oh, wow. So you weren't like grandfathered in or anything?
No. We kept our seniority from all of our years at the school for being here for 7.5, almost 8 years. We kept our seniority. But you get in line. So we flexed for 2 years in elementary division and moved around again. But this time, because there was a shortage of house parents, we were pulled in every division, elementary, middle, high school. We could think one day that, we're going to this house. It could literally change 15 minutes before we were supposed to show up. No, you're going to this house. Or you're just going to, what's called shadowing, where you just go and, we already were seasoned, but they don't have coverage needs. So you just go and hang out with other house parents and see their program, meet their kids, and then you could go home at night. And sometimes we're like, oh, great, we can sleep at home. We're just shadowing. And then that would change. No, you're covering now. So then we pack everything up to stay overnight. So that for 2 years.
Yeah.
And then finally, we've been at this house for 2 years. So 2 years ago, we got placed with our elementary boys student home. So
Yeah. And how is that going? So is it what you thought it would be, like shifting from adult, like high school girls to like elementary boys? Is it what you thought it was going to be, or are you surprised at how much energy all those boys have?
I am very surprised by the energy. I don't know though if I had any expectations about what I thought it would be. I mean, they don't have cell phones. They have iPads, but only in school and for homework. That's it. I mean, the high school kids were like binging Netflix
Yeah.
shows, constantly, you know how it is. So, I mean, that's much more manageable because we don't have all of that. And you're not monitoring for sexting and inappropriate thing, all the things.
Yeah.
So they come home and they do homework and then they just want to play, really. So that's certainly been different because I'm used to independent high school girls who manage their own time, their own schedules. You can have more adult conversations with them and they just want to play. So sometimes watching them play, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, is there something else I could be doing instead of just watching children play right now?
Yeah.
So there's that, but we have a really great bunch of boys. They get along really well and they're great with us. And they get along great with our girls. They're in second to fourth grade. So we have one second grader, one third grader, and fourth graders who will move on to fifth grade next year. So I don't know what ages we'll get next year when our fourth graders transition to middle school.
Okay. But you'll still have elementary. You just
Yes.
don't know what grade you'll have.
Yes. We'll probably keep our second and third grader and they might just give us, more second and third graders who will be, third and fourth graders next year. So we'll see.
Yeah. And so you're not homeschooling them. Are you still homeschooling your girls or are they back in school?
I did until last year. And so
Okay.
this year, 2021, I put them in school. They go to a private Christian school now because I needed a break. And then I wondered, what will I do with all my time? And I found podcasting and the gap has been filled.
Yeah.
Now I am so busy. Yes. All the things. I never thought it would be easy, but I didn't know it was going to be this intense with the social media for sure.
Yeah. So let's talk about your podcast for a second, because what I find really interesting about your podcast is that you did take a shift, right? Like with your messaging. And so we are both in like the motherhood, like parenting realm. Like I'm not as much like parenting tips, but like that is like your wheelhouse, especially with all of the past knowledge that you just talked about and that transitioning that has to be, I would think, like you had said, like that you're not giving yourself as much credit for probably how difficult that really was to transition, have so many different kids, like moving your kids around, and you like learning kids' styles, learning like, okay, what kind of temperaments do they have? Like, what kind of mood do they have? Like, who are they? Like, any eating issues? Like, that's not necessarily easy. So you have to be really, I would say you have to be really patient, you and your husband, very flexible, but also you have to have really good skills in parenting. So I would love it if you could just talk a little bit about that. Like, what have you guys kind of learned along the way to help you with transitioning? Because I used to be a school teacher. And so I know that there's a lot of learning, a lot of communication, a lot of behavior management, like little things that you pick up along the way to help. And I think that so many parents are craving and looking for things like that, even if it's just something so tiny. So do you have something that's like really helped you and your husband, or something that you're like, ooh, this is like a really great tip that like so many people are asking for right now? Or do you have so many?
Oh gosh. Well, you mentioned communication, and I do think that's a big one. And I think that's a big one in any marriage. If you don't have good communication, you're almost dead in the water. But the kids here, especially high schoolers, but I mean, all ages. I mean, if they see that you're not on the same page, I mean, they're like sharks in the water. They will pounce on that. They will manipulate that. They will, they will do the whole thing. Like, well, I'll ask her. And if she says no, then I'll go ask him. Like we've caught and kids are kids, but we've caught some of our boys. And I was like, I just told you no. So why would you go ask him? You know that we don't allow that. Right. But communication is a huge thing. And I think, to be a house parent and to work 12 days and to do it with your family, I mean, you're always on, really. You have to have a really solid marriage. You can't come into a marriage like, oh, this will save it. People thinking maybe a baby will save it. Like, this is not going to save your marriage. This is going to test your marriage. It's going to see what you're made out of, because you really have to work together. You have to shift into different roles and figure out those roles are. Sometimes you have to take on each other's roles. And sometimes maybe you're not going to agree on how to discipline a student if they need disciplining, or sometimes maybe you will, but we are constantly communicating, saying, hey, do you know that I kind of keep the schedule. So I'll write things down. I do all the emails, the phone calls, all the, like the break paperwork. I write everything on the whiteboard for the boys, and I keep everybody going where they need to. And he's usually the one that takes them, and he also cooks. So while I'm watching them play and do all of that, he cooks. I'm usually more of the disciplinarian, not that he won't, but I just tend to be the one who will pull them in the office and talk to them. And with high school girls, they want to talk to the house mother.
Yeah.
So that would be like knocking on the door at 10:30. Can I talk to you? They want to talk to me more so than him. So I definitely say communication, but definitely behavior management, being on the same page with that and really being flexible. And I think something that's, my podcast is called Authenticate, but something that I think we both bring to the table really well is being authentic as individuals, as well as in our marriage. Like, we're very affectionate with each other. Some house parents choose not to be, but we've always just been really affectionate. And we have no problem being appropriately, obviously, affectionate in front of students or our boys, because I want them to see that role modeled. But, if I want to kiss my husband, I'm going to kiss my husband or whatever it is. And sometimes like, oh my gosh, it's gross, but they love it because they're not seeing that. A lot of our kids are not seeing that at home. A lot of them come from single parent families. And they haven't seen a positive marriage role modeled for them. Most of their parents haven't been married or are not currently together. So I think that's also really important, and being really authentic. Again, back to the high school girls, in conversations, we talk about boys, sex, careers, anything, everything. Like, I was very open with them about some of my experiences, and then just very open about the topic itself. And these are choices you can make, and these are different consequences you could get from the choices. And I'm here to kind of guide you, and hopefully you'll take my advice. And if not, you're going to have to figure that out on your own.
Yeah. And I would assume, obviously this is an assumption, that is it difficult to like parent someone else's kids? Or do you really take that role as like, you're their mom for as long as they are with you? Like, is that hard for you, or does your mind just shift like, they're my kids?
I would say for the most part, like, they're my kids. And I will say for the most part, whether we had high school girls or now with elementary boys, the desire is to have a really good relationship with whoever the parent or the sponsor is, because the sponsor of the student is not always the parent. Sometimes it's an aunt, uncle, grandma, grandpa, whoever is legally responsible. So we call them parent sponsors, but our goal is always, always, always to have a great relationship with the parent sponsors, so they are involved in what we're doing with the boys. So that we have a Facebook account for the student home. So we post things that we're doing so they can be involved and see pictures, and we'll call. And sometimes if there's an issue, I'll let them know or get feedback. But we, for the most part, have had amazing parent sponsors. They fully back us up. Like, when there's an issue, they're like, go ahead, do whatever you need to. I support. Or, I'll have mom on the phone.
Yeah.
And I'll have the kid in the office and be like, go ahead, tell them what you did. And then I'll say what we discussed. And they're like, yeah, like, we're on board. And then of course, sometimes, because people are people, you have really difficult parent sponsors who, no matter what you do, it's not good enough. Or, if they're not disciplining their kids at home, or their kid never does anything wrong, quote unquote, there's only so much you can do. But, you're choosing them to enroll them in this school, and this is how we run our home. This is how we treat our kids fairly and equitably and all of that. And this is what happened, and we're here right now. I'm sorry if you don't agree, and sometimes our boss will get involved if need be to kind of be that mediator. But for the most part, they've been wonderful and supportive, but discipline hasn't been too bad. We do what we need to do based on the situation.
Yeah. Do you and your husband have like parent, like, you get together and you have like your own night where you're just like all communication, like, let's really talk about all this? Because I'm sure with all those kids too, well, I'm sure like with the older girls, maybe it was like they were coming in late at night and things like that. The boys are maybe going to bed at a certain, good time. So you have a little bit more time at night. But like, how do you keep that communication line open? Because I know for myself, like with myself and my husband, our work schedules are totally different. So you and your husband are you guys together all the time?
Yes.
That's gotta be, I would think that would be so difficult. Personally, I'm like, oh my God, I need my space. Do you guys have your own time? I guess, like, do you have your own time?
We do. We do. So I will say, like, I don't know if you listened to my first solo episode. about how I found my authentic self. But when he was deployed, to Iraq 4 months after we got married, and
Okay.
about 1 month after we had bought our house. So that was like a huge shift for me, not only knowing like this man I just married could die at any moment, but I'm alone. So I like had a job, but I was alone. I did live beside my mom, but I was alone for all that time. So I really had to get comfortable being by myself. And now sometimes I just crave being by myself. If you can
Yeah.
imagine, I'm surrounded by 9 kids all the time.
Yeah.
We love working together. We love being together, but I'm not the kind of woman or the kind of wife who, if he's gone, I'm texting constantly, calling constantly. He loves to mountain bike. He does that usually on Thursday nights. He goes out mountain bikes with his friends, or he'll go, because we each get a night out 1 night per week for a
Okay.
5-hour block. So he'll do that for his night out, or he'll go hang out with his guy friends, like whatever. And I'm like, go do it. I don't care. I'm usually, at least in the winter months, more of a homebody. So I'll stay in the house, but I do my thing. He does his thing, and then we come back together.
Yeah. I think that's so important because I
Yeah.
think as a husband and wife, and like I said, we don't work together, but I think it's really important to not be your spouse's everything. Like
Oh, yes, for
you're their best
sure.
friend. Like you're the only person they talk to. So it's like, I always say to my husband, like, there's you, there's me, and there's us. So like
Yes.
I have my thing, you have your thing, and then we have us things.
Yes.
And because I think it can get so daunting for me anyway, and you start to feel suffocated if you don't have time to yourself, or you can't go do
Yes.
something by yourself. So I think that's really important and really smart. And I love that you guys have nights out by yourselves too. That's so smart.
Yes. Yes. And that is something that the school built in, just so one house parent can run the house and the other can have a break. So sometimes I'll do things with the girls. Sometimes I do something on my own. Sometimes I go out with my girlfriends, but we definitely have our own girlfriends, guy friends, and all of that. I mean, there'll be times when I'm like, I'm going to go on a run. He's like, oh, can I come with you? And I'm like, I guess. Because that's like my quiet time to like put in my music and just go and do my thing. But
Yeah.
I'll be like, yeah, and then we'll have good conversations.
Yeah.
So I'm
Well,
very independent.
yeah. And I was going to say, do you want to, or would you mind talking a little bit about when he was deployed, like a little bit more, and kind of what you kind of went through? Because what were you doing for a job then if you weren't doing this yet? Like, were you working and then you had a
What was I
newborn and then you
doing?
had a house and he was gone? Like, can you?
We did not have kids at that time. So since
Oh,
we were
you did?
only,
Okay.
no, because we got married in October 2004, and he deployed February, March 2005.
Okay.
So we did not have kids. And like I said, I lived beside my mom. I did have a church community, so I had that support. I think I really have to think back. I think at that time I worked for a ballet studio.
Oh,
I was a studio manager, and I managed the studio, and then I also taught really basic, because I've never taken basic ballet classes for like the little ones, like 2, 3,
yeah.
4, 5-year-olds.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't remember a lot about it, because I think it's just, every day was the same. I was alone, come home, make dinner. If it was a Wednesday night, I would, go to church and probably see my mom here and there, or on the weekends, and different people would be supportive and have me over for dinner and all of that. But I just got really good at being alone, like going out to eat alone or going to the movies alone. Like I'm all good with that. I know some people really struggle with doing those things. I think the hardest part for me though was knowing I could be doing something completely mundane, and he's dead, because they would shut down communications sometimes, and sometimes that would be for repairs or whatever it is, or sometimes the system just went down, but sometimes they would intentionally shut down communications because a soldier was killed and they needed to notify the family. So when they shut down, I had no idea what was happening, and I didn't know if somebody was going to show up at my door. So
Right.
that was the hardest part, and probably nighttime, going to bed alone, for
Yeah.
sure.
Right. And how long was he gone? And does he still have to, like, is he still in active service? Can he potentially leave sometimes, or sometimes on the weekend, or?
He's not active anymore. So he was gone for 18 months. And then shortly after we came to the boarding school, he resigned his commission,
Okay.
because that one, when you only really have, when we were on that 12-2 schedule that I told you about, he would have been gone one of
Right.
those weekends we had off. So he would have had a break 2 days out of every month. And it was just too much.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So was that like a big sigh of relief for you for him to resign and then be with you all the time, and you not have to worry about him being gone?
It was a sigh of relief to know that he couldn't get called back up again. you know, the state of the world and how it is. But we were just talking, I think last week, he's like, you know, if I would have stayed in, I could have retired from the military, you know, a year or two ago or whatever it is, and could have had military pay. And it's like, well, but you give up a lot
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
So
Well, and also in that time, like you could have done that, but at the same time, like you never know what could have happened. Like
true.
during that time frame with everything that has gone on in the world since when he was, um,
Yes.
and continues to go on in the world.
Yes.
So, it's like, oh, I used to be a school teacher. And so when I resigned as a teacher, so many people were like, oh my gosh, you're so crazy because you have your master's degree and you have the study
Mm-hmm.
coming in every 2 weeks and you have your insurance and then you have your pension. And I was like, yeah, but for what? Like, if I'm not happy right now and living my life right now, like, what does it matter when I turn 60 and then that pension is there and I was miserable for the last 20
20
years?
years. Exactly. Exactly. I think people get stuck in the comfort zone for
Yeah,
sure.
they really do. And so I think it's really important. And you guys are doing something that obviously that you love, and obviously not everyone could do what you guys are doing too, because it's not easy. And
It's
it's
not, no, it's tiring. I would say it's a definite mental game for
yeah.
sure.
So
For
how do you
sure.
guys keep your relationship so strong? I mean, you've shared some things with like communication, you have your own, night away. Like, do you guys have time away that you take, or like do you and the kids do things like you and your own kids versus like with the boarding school? Like, do you have things like that built in so that you as your family unit and your unit with you and your husband like stay super strong too in your relationship?
Yes. So our family unit is strong. And so we're now on a 12-3 schedule. So we work 12 days that are rotating, and then we have 3 days off. So like if we went off on a Tuesday and then worked 12 days, next time we go off on a Wednesday. And then the next time it'll be off on a Thursday. And then those days just keep moving
Yeah.
forward. So your 3 days off will always be shifting. So sometimes it's on a weekend, most of the time not. So most of our time off is during the week, which is part of the reason why we chose to homeschool. So we could have more time with our girls when the students weren't home.
Yeah.
So we do see less of them now that they're in Christian school. But yeah, like we'll do our own things during the day, but sometimes we'll do things together. I will say it is really hard to raise your own kids when you're raising others. It is a balance. And sometimes I feel like I don't always do it well, because you do have to be so intentional and so hands-on with 7 others.
Yeah.
And now that my girls are older, they're so we have our apartment, which is attached to the main house. They'll be in the apartment more. But sometimes we just really don't get to spend quality time with them until the evenings, till the boys go to bed, which
Yeah.
can be frustrating. Or, our quality time as a family is just on the 3 days off.
Yeah.
So there's sacrifices. We've given up a lot in terms of that.
Yeah. Are the kids into anything like that they love to do, or, they sing, are they a ballerina, or do they do anything fun where you guys can do that stuff together, or you can take them to those extracurricular activities?
Well, that can be tricky too, because usually when the extracurriculars are happening, we're working. So one of
Yeah.
us has to leave, or we have to take the entire student home with us. So, I mean,
Woo!
you're always just trucking around kids, or you have to balance, if one of the boys needs to be somewhere at this time, and then I need to take one of the girls to piano, we're trying to what time is this and what time you'll be back, and then I need to leave at this time, or, whatever it is, it's constant time management, really.
Yes.
And
You
thinking
have to
ahead.
be really good at that then. Like you have
Oh,
to
yes.
be like, do you
It's
have like a calendar that is like color coded, and like
I
how do
have
you
my
stay
personal
organized?
calendar. Well, I have a personal calendar on my phone for all my personal things. And then I have a desk calendar in the student home. And then there's like the Outlook calendar on the student home computer as well. And then I have that whiteboard. So every day ahead of time, like at the end of the evening, I write what's coming up for the next day. So the boys know what's happening. They're not surprised. So Nate knows what's happening, just so we're all on the same page. But my girls have taken piano for the last few years. And now Sydney has gotten involved with the play. She's in the ensemble for Beauty and the Beast, which
Oh,
starts in like 2 weeks.
that's
So she's been
exciting.
doing that. Yes. And then Trinity just started middle school soccer.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So fun.
Yeah. It
Were you an
keeps
athlete when
every,
you were younger, or did you play piano?
I begrudgingly played piano. I have not stuck with it. I'm not a pianist. And I don't think it's my girls' strong desire to keep taking piano. They have talent, but I don't think they have the interest. So we'll see where that goes. But I did track and cross country. So I have been a runner since high school. I started track and then they saw that I did they got me into the long distance relays and then they were like, you should do cross country. So I did that and I
I saw
still run.
that you just got new sneakers.
I did. I got them yesterday. I'm so excited. It's been a year and a half. It's so exciting.
I know you totally need them. I used to run a lot more. I try and do a little bit of, I don't know, like as I'm getting older now, I'm like, what do I really like to do? Like I'm in this kind of like
Yes.
authentic, like self-discovery of myself.
Yes.
And I think it really started to happen a little bit more because we were forced to be home, for 2 years with, the pandemic. So it's like, what do I even like to do? Do I really like to do HIIT classes? Like, do I like to do boot camp? Like, would I rather do Pilates and yoga more? I've kind of had that self-discovery of what I really like to do. And I've had this whole theme with my podcast too. It's like coming home to yourself and really discovering like, what
Yes.
do I like? Like
Yes.
me, not
Yes, which
like,
is such an important question to ask as a mother, because I think I've been, looking at other people's posts and their content, and it's just like you do not have to forget who you are as a mom because you're taking care of all these children. Because I think so many moms just push themselves aside, and then when the kids leave the house, they're lost.
yeah.
And that breaks my heart.
Yeah. And it's not easy. And I feel like I keep coming back to it just every day, like new thoughts on what does that even mean to me? Like, who am I today? Because I feel like, okay, well, I'm different than I was last week, or my thoughts are different than I
Yes.
even was thinking last week, or somebody says something and it triggers something in me to be like, wait, let me think about that because
Mm-hmm.
maybe that's true for me. And I think so many times as moms, you think you have to be stuck in this same role or this same person for so long, but think of it as like your kids and like they're elementary and they're middle and they're high school and they're all so different and they're changing, and we are allowed to change and evolve as a mother. And I think it's so
Yes.
important to know that you don't always have to be the same.
No, nope. Total freedom. Total freedom.
Yeah, and it's just not easy. How have you come to figure out like authentic Kate then? Like you said, like when your husband was gone and you had to be by yourself and really thinking about that. But as you're raising all of these kids, how are you keeping with yourself? Because I'm sure
Mm.
it can be so monotonous almost every day too. Just me, even as a mother, it's like
Mm-hmm.
get the kids ready for
Mm-hmm.
school, the kids go to school, and this is what I do, and then they come home, and then here we do, and then I cook dinner, and so how do you stay authentic to yourself now when all these kids are running around and it's not easy. So how are you doing it? How are you managing?
I want to say day drinking, but that's not true. That's only when we're off.
I love it. I will not send this to your boss to listen to.
No, we do not. We do not day drink while we're on duty for sure. Well, probably a lot of things that you suggested. I do yoga. I had taken a break from running for a long while. And then when we started house parenting, a friend of mine, she was a runner. She's like, hey, you want to run? And so there was like this group of house moms who ran together. So now, I mean, gosh, have I been running for 8, 9 years? I don't even know. So I just
Yeah.
consistently kept up with that. And that makes me feel good and gets the endorphins and lowers the cortisol and all the things. I always feel so much better afterwards. So yoga and running. We don't watch TV when we're off. I mean, obviously podcasting, I've really enjoyed creating content
Yeah.
and using my experience to create the content and do all of that. Reading when I have the time, trying to keep up with just reading a book uninterrupted, which is a challenge. Yeah, and trying to make time for my girlfriends when I can. It's hard during the day, especially the ones who have transitioned. It's a built-in community of amazing house moms and house dads and couples, and a lot of them have transitioned out of house parenting, so now they're doing regular jobs. So just trying to match up our schedules to hang out, maybe do a night out together or something like that. But yeah, I think that's it. Exercise and reading and hanging out with friends.
Yeah.
Sometimes just appreciating silence.
Yeah. I know, right? And so I think sometimes, as moms too, it's like, oh, you like wish your kids, oh, I can't wait till they're older. So then
Mhm.
this like baby phase or this like toddler phase is over,
Yes.
all the questioning is over. Then they're in elementary and then it's so much easier. And then middle school, and then, oh my God, I can't wait till they can drive. And then, oh my God, then they're in college, but we don't sit back and actually be present in the moment of
Yes.
where we are and appreciate like where our kids are, even if it's hard Because I'm in that
Yes.
teenager phase where I'm like, this is
Mm-hmm.
really
Mm-hmm.
hard. Like
Responding and not reacting.
I had no idea how hard being a teenage mom would be. Like, I
Mm.
really had no idea, like, how your kids do start to change. And then I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, oh my God, I'm the worst mom. I'm like, I have raised my children and they aren't nice to me. I'm like, what did I do wrong? I have boundaries. Like, I take things away. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? And I feel like such a bad mom, like daily. Do you feel like that?
Yes, every day, every day. And then I'm like, I don't have any right to give people parenting advice because, sometimes I'm struggling more with my own two than I do with the boys because that's, on a more professional level. And like your job is to sit down with them and discuss, this behavior and this is the discipline but I still love you and all the things or whatever it is. But then when it comes to your own kids, especially when it's at the end of the day and then you can spend time with your own kids,
Yeah,
I'm tired
you're
and I'm
done.
tapped out and I'm still trying to be intentional with them. So that is definitely a balance. And I
Yeah.
don't always get it right because I'm human. But you asked about finding my authentic self and raising teenagers. Oh my gosh, I did the pivot. At first, I didn't want to do anything on parenting because I was like, well, what do I really have to say? All I do is just like, I just live with a bunch of kids all the time. And that's all I've
Yeah.
done. What do I really have to say? What do I really know? And then the amazing John Chow kind of coached Nate and I through that. He's like, but you guys don't understand that what you've been doing, most people don't do. And when you had a baby and a toddler, you were raising 12 teenage girls. Most people get to move into that stage and you just got it thrown at you. And I was like, well, that's true. So I think I also found part of my authentic self when I started to raise high school girls, because again, if I wasn't going to be the alpha and establish myself as the alpha female, I was going to get steamrolled. Like
Yeah.
these kids, some of them are tough and some of these girls have trauma and they want to bring drama. They have pain and that pain comes out in behavior issues. And if you don't push back on some of that and push back in love, you're going to get steamrolled and they will manipulate you. They will play you one against the other. There'll be drama in the house. So like, I really had to step up and like assert myself and just let them know where the line was. And when you cross this line, this is what happens. But, we always said we're firm and fun, and we discipline and love. Like, we're going to let you know where you're off track, or we're going to let you know we still love you. And we're taking the time. I shared this in one of my recent episodes. We take the time to discipline you because we love you. If we didn't care about you, I wouldn't bother to take the time. And I think it's easier for a lot of parents, especially nowadays, to just like give them a phone or just go away, just whatever. And they're not teaching to the behavior and they're not disciplining in love. It's just being dismissed. And then the kids are disrespectful and they're defiant and all the other things. But it takes time to sit down, have an intentional conversation about why they did what they did and what choice they could have made better and the consequences for it, to let them know that you still love them as a person and, hopefully make the better choice next time.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It is. And then just like what you said, I mean, that's a perfect thing with like, here's how you do it. And this is how you can say it versus like going in and yelling. Cause I do say to my kids and they know it. And I jokingly say it, but it can be where I turn into She-Hulk because there are
Mm-hmm.
moments where I'm like, I can't take it anymore. And
Yes,
my
for
situation,
sure.
like my husband, we own a restaurant. And so he's at the restaurant 5 days a week. Pretty much he leaves at, he gets up and goes to work when the kids are in school. So like we haven't seen him in the morning and then he doesn't get home till like 11:30 when we're in bed. So like I have
Mm-hmm.
5 days pretty much where like I'm all of the things
Yes.
myself. And there's times when I'm like, I can't take it anymore. And I put myself in like mommy timeout. I think I said that to you before, but there's
Yes.
times when I get it wrong and I'm like, I can't even, I know what I need to do. I know mindfulness. I was a teacher. I know all these things, but like we all F up, right? It's like, I
Yes.
can't, you don't get it right all the time. And I think that
Right.
we as parents and moms need to be more gentle with ourselves and know
Yes.
no one is getting it right. Even the experts, even Kate, who's going to be teaching you parenting, like we all mess up, right? Like we
Yes.
just do. And to be like, you know what, to not feel like you can't go and apologize if you need to, and say, hey, listen, this is a great learning experience. And, I'm not a perfect human either. And I think that takes a lot of courage.
It
Um,
does. And humility.
and yeah, and character as a parent to be able to do that and be like, even though I'm the adult here, like I still
Mm-hmm.
make mistakes and you're going to
Mm-hmm.
make mistakes. And it doesn't mean that's the end of the world, but it's like you can come back from that and have a lesson that's learned from it.
Absolutely. And I think explaining to your kids like why you reacted that way, because sometimes, again, I'm not a perfect parent. And after I've been going all day long and the boys are finally in bed, they go to bed at 7:45, and then I can finally have time with my girls. And they're, I walk back into the house and I've asked them to do something several times, still not done. The last thing I want to do is clean up the house or the apartment at the end of the day when I've been doing it throughout the day, but at the end of the day, or they're like fighting over something and you just,
Yeah.
your capacity is up to here and you're just done.
Yeah.
So, but explaining to them, if you could have listened the first time, then I wouldn't have, my reaction was wrong, but I wouldn't have reacted like that if you would have been a better listener too. So it's like that give and take, but there's always so giving when you apologize too. They're like, it's fine. I love you.
I know, but it's still like, especially, I don't know, like it always, I don't know, bleeds on my heart sometimes.
Of
I'm
course,
just like, oh,
of course.
I suck. Like, God, I did it again. I said I was going to try and be better today.
Yep,
And here I am
yep.
back in the same boat again.
Yep. But it's just like with our kids, they do the same thing. We're like, why'd you do that again? Oh, right. I'm the same way. Oops.
Yeah, I know. And so it is. It's being like, yeah, I'm just like you. I'm just
Yep.
an older version and I'm still making mistakes.
Yep. We're all trying. We're trying every day.
I know. So you and your husband, so you guys are pivoting into doing some of this parenting. So you're doing that on your podcast together, and then are you going to do other stuff with that as well? Because I know you guys, I mean, I think it's so cool. And then I'm like, it's also crazy. Like you guys work together and then you do your podcast. Like, it's like all, like you guys really love each other. I love it. I'm like, you really love, like, you can't fake that.
We really do. And we are best friends, but I think it's easy and natural because we've been house parenting together. So
Yeah.
why not if the podcast pivots to parage and parenting? Wow. Marriage.
You just made, wait, what is that? Paraging?
Marriage and parenting.
You just made a new word.
I
like
made a
you
new
should
word.
write that down.
I really should. Parage and parenting. Maybe that'll be the next post on Instagram. Parage and parenting. Oh my goodness.
Paraging?
Yes.
Maybe that's a thing. I don't know. We're going to have to play around with that.
It is now. Yes. Play with that word. But we figured why not do this together too. So it's still like micro evolving. So I still definitely want to do interviews, especially with mamas and people on, couples on marriage and women's health issues. And I think maybe we should do some of them together because I could do some solo episodes by myself, but if we're both obviously house parenting, we could both talk to or speak to any topic because we've been doing it together. So why not do that? And then we still want to have the fun Friday, Nate and Kate, have a point to it, but at the same time, make it a little more fun, a little more light, not, as scripted. And like I said, this Friday, we're going to talk with the girls about how our trip went south and blew up in our face and what we learned from that and how we changed our perspective and all of that, because they're like, can we be on an episode with you? I was like, sure. We just have to kind of have a point.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're a family. So why the heck not? And we can do whatever we want.
Yeah.
So
I love it. And it's your podcast. Like that's the thing. It's
exactly.
your podcast. You can shift next week and be like, nah, we're not doing that anymore.
Yeah, we're going to talk about trucking.
Exactly.
Who knows?
Talk about your movies. I know you guys talk about movies and
all. Oh, yes. Everything. And I really want people, it's not just a podcast to come and necessarily learn, but also just to get to know us and our relationship and him. And he's even thinking about doing maybe a spin-off on authentic manhood and things like that. So it's just kind of fun with new thoughts. And of course, my thoughts tend to come at night when I'm trying to wind down. It's like, oh, I could do this. Oh, I need to do that. Oh, I need to keep a notepad beside the bed. But yeah, it's fun when the creativity flows in. That's been really fun.
Yeah. As a mom I just have a quick question. As a mom who is doing a lot of different things and being a house mom and your own mom and a wife and your own things and a podcast and, all these different pieces, like how do you manage all of that? Like, I know you said something earlier about like your schedule, but like, how do you set really strong boundaries? Like, do you look at your calendar and have it set to where I know you have like your nighttime or things like that, but there has to be more time, especially when the kids are in school, where that has to be kind of structured as well to be able to get a lot of things done. Like, I think a lot of moms struggle with that because they don't think they have enough time. So you talked about self-care and stuff like that and doing stuff for yourself, but like, how do you really, because you're managing a lot of kids, a lot
Mhm.
of household, a lot of pieces to your pie. How do you manage that? Like, do you have something that works really well for you to kind of figure all that out?
Honestly, I think it's being really intentional with every hour, which I posted about a week and a half ago. I was just having a down day. It gets exhausting because I would love to just, I guess, I would love to just sit on the couch and binge Netflix when my girl's at school, the boys are at school. I mean, because we have the time, but now that we're doing podcasting, other things, like we've just filled it with that. Um, and
Yeah.
I've gotten out of the practice, but I was getting up at 5:30 in the morning just to have my quiet time to read the Bible, have a cup of coffee, do some journaling, and just praying. And the last few weeks have been just kind of bananas. So I do need to get back into that, but that would be like my hour because then we get the boys up at 6:30. Our girls leave for school at 7:30. One of us will drive them, and then the boys are in school at 8. So then from 8 o'clock on, I look at my calendar, see, am I interviewing someone and am I being interviewed? I check the weather. Is it a good day for a run? And what time do I want to run, which will be the warmest, but not too warm. Um, and I'm really trying to be super intentional, posting content between like 8 and 10, just like knocking it out in the morning, just so I don't have to think about it. And so the day doesn't get away from me. If I find if I'm not intentional with my time and specifically like hour by hour, my whole day goes to crap. It really does. And then I, on the back end, of course, beat myself up. And I'm like, oh, it was a day wasted. I had all these things on my to-do list. I didn't do any of them because I just wasn't focused.
Yeah.
So yeah, getting up early and just knocking it out, having the to-do list. I have a to-do list on my phone and it's not necessarily daily, but like a weekly. So I have some room. If I didn't get it done today, I can do it tomorrow, build in that time for errands and whatever else. But
Yeah.
it's just hour by hour because that's really, because we're back on duty. Our time off is from 8:30 to 2. So even though the boys are gone at 8, if we get a phone call or whatever, we still need to respond to that before 8:30. And then we are back on duty at 2 to like, we check the rooms. I check rooms, I check chores, I check the email, see anything else that's going on. And then the boys get out of school at 3:07 and they're back in the house wild and crazy by 3:15 and then moving them through their routine. So routine is very good. I do like routine, even though sometimes, like you said, can be very monotonous. Like it can be like Groundhog Day, but it's just so essential. Or I mean, everybody just goes everywhere,
Yeah.
and you can't herd that many cats well without
And
routine.
well, and kids need routine,
They
they
do, and they thrive
need,
in structure.
yeah,
And
they
that's part of the
totally.
reason why I write down the day before, like this is what's coming tomorrow, so you know it's coming. They're not. I mean, we don't have any that would like flip out or anything, be like, I didn't know, but just to give them a heads up, this is what you're doing tomorrow. And like in the morning, I'll remind them, look at the board. This is what you have this afternoon. Or like, you don't come right home after school because you have band practice. And then you do come home after school, but then you go back for this. So just so they kind of, so they know what they're doing. And then
Yeah.
dinner time is after that. And then showers and our wind down routine, whether it's, listening to a record, we're doing Chronicles of Narnia right now, or reading them a bedtime story, and then getting them in bed. And then we shift back to our family time in our apartment. And then we get the girls in bed by 9:30. And then we have time together. I go to bed much earlier than he does. And then hit repeat and do
Start
it
the
again.
next day.
Yeah.
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 I love that word intentional though. That was my word of the year last year because I found that I wasn't being intentional with many things like throughout my day, but also with the people that I was
Mm,
with. So like I would
yes.
be with my husband or my kids or friends or wherever. And I was always thinking about something else. Like I'd be like, the next thing. Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Check this off my list, like the next thing. And so that was really important for me because I was noticing that I wasn't being present and intentional with my time. So like if this is my time with my family, this is my time with my family and putting
Yes.
cell phones away and not answering things and doing work, but like this is intentional. I will say like I've definitely gotten away from that. I was really good. And I don't know if I had shared this before, like I had deleted Facebook and Messenger off my phone
Oh,
and I
wow.
added it back on because it was just easier for doing messaging people.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And I was like, dang it. And then how am I supposed to say things to my kids like get off your phone if I'm always on my phone too? So I need to get back to that of being more intentional with that aspect and making sure like my phone is put away and like these are like my business hours, right? And I'm
Yes.
not going to respond. This is my time that I'm going to be with you, even though they're teenagers and a lot of the time they don't even want to be with me.
Oh,
I know. I'm like, oh God. So, like,
I
but
haven't
anyway,
experienced that quite yet. I still have a 13-year-old who wants to hold my hand in public. So
oh my gosh.
I'm happy about that. But I think a lot of that was because we homeschooled. Like we've just always been together.
Yeah.
So
Oh, I love
yeah,
that.
it's
Oh, this is
sweet.
such a good conversation.
It is. It's so fun.
Yeah. Is there anything like you haven't shared that, is just on your heart or that you feel like moms need to hear or parenting or whatever? Is there anything that, is something that's still on your heart or?
I think for me, my main message was starting Authenticate before I even pivoted. Like I just have always been fascinated by people's stories. And I think I can do this to myself and be like, well, what do I have to share? My life isn't interesting or my background or whatever it is isn't interesting, but I'm always fascinated by other people. And Nate makes fun of me. I'm like, oh wow, you do that? That's so cool. And he's like, what's the big deal or whatever. I'm like, no, but it's so cool. And people will say that to us about our job. Like, oh wow, that's what you do. I'm like, yeah, I just raise kids though, like whatever. And other people are so fascinated. And then I guess when you take a step back and it can be interesting. But I think for all of us to know, and especially moms who are definitely in the thick of it, regardless of what age or stage. I mean, I know babies and toddlers are really difficult, but I think all ages and stages of moms and seasons can bring their own difficulties. But like you and I talked about, not to beat yourself up. We're all trying our best every day. We're going to screw up probably daily, and it's okay. Just, try to respond overreacting or try to something that I'm still working on with certain things is shifting your perspective, trying not to get stuck in, oh, it's like this, but look at it from another perspective and try to change yours and try to be more positive and definitely be grateful for the small things, even when you're feeling overwhelmed and all that. And I think a big thing too, what we talked about as well, and I did a blog post on this, but for a lot of moms, especially single mamas who can't get away, just trying to take intentional moments for themselves. If you need to put the baby in the crib, even if they're crying, but put the baby in the crib, pop some headphones in and just take time for you for 10, 15 minutes, listen to a podcast while you're doing dishes or your favorite music, or get out of the house with the stroller or your, elementary age kids, take a walk, just change it up, give yourself a moment, give yourself grace and be forgiving of yourself and just try your best. We're all trying our best and support other moms for
Yeah.
sure. Definitely reach out and support other moms.
I love that. It's so true because it is. And even it like, I always joke because it's like, oh, the ones that are the strongest are the ones that are never checked on. The ones that always
That's
are
true.
checking on everyone
That's
else. People
true.
think, oh, they're good. They're strong. And it's like,
Yep.
no, everyone
Yep.
needs to be
Yep.
checked on
Yep.
actually.
And I think asking for help is so important too, because I'm one that can pretty independent, can keep it all together, but sometimes just reaching out, asking for help, because I think that can be a strength when it's looked at as a weakness, and delegating for sure.
Yeah.
Delegate to your husband, delegate to your kids, even if they're smaller, let them do something small or whatever, but ask for help because you're not meant to do it alone.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that's so good. All right. I asked this question at the very end. This is my ending question, but
Okay.
we as women do not celebrate ourselves enough. We are like the biggest cheerleader for everybody else, but we
So
don't
true.
celebrate ourselves enough. So what is something that you just love about yourself?
Oh gosh. Probably, it's probably what everybody says, but probably my sense of humor and my sarcasm.
No one
Yeah.
else has said that. What do you mean? Everyone says that? No, nobody says that. You are funny.
Oh, and I don't
I
know
love
where
that.
that came from, but yes, taking
I
a
love that.
serious
Yeah.
moment, or when people are in a conversation, finishing the sentence with something really funny. Just, I don't know. Sometimes it just comes out. I don't even pre-plan it. It's just funny.
Yeah. That's the
But
best.
yeah, you have to
That's
laugh
what
at
you're doing in
yourself.
like your reels, right? You're making funny reels and
Yes.
having a good
You
time
have to
with
laugh
it.
at yourself. How can you survive parenting if you don't laugh at yourself and laugh at your kids and
Yes.
laugh at each
Point
other?
and laugh.
Honestly. Oh
Point
my
and laugh.
gosh. Yes. Yes.
That's so good. Well, can people find you? Where can the mamas out there go and find your information, your content, your podcast, all the things?
Okay, so I have the Authenticate podcast, and it is spelled with a K. And that is on Apple and Spotify, Stitcher, and Google. And then I am on Instagram at authentic.kate. And my website is authenticate22.com.
Nice. And I will
Yep.
put all that in the show notes because there's no mom
Awesome.
out there that's writing all that down.
No. Nope.
While they're probably at pickup right now. But
Yes, or groceries.
but I will make sure I put all that in the show notes so that people can find you and follow you. And I love your podcast. I think it's so
Thank
great.
you.
And
I love yours.
yeah, I love listening to you and your husband and your friends that have been on, and the episode that you did about we don't talk about Bruno, like about Encanto. What, I can't even think of the name.
Yes, it's Encanto. Yeah.
That was such a good. I was like, oh, I didn't think of it that way. Like I thought it was such a great episode. So I'm
it was so organic. We were texting, and he's like, "Wait, let's do it together. Don't text anymore." So it's all organic conversation. And then I was like, then I'll just put her on for her episode on Monday because then they'll already know who she is.
Yeah,
it worked perfect. Out. Yeah, it was so fun.
Yeah, I love it. So just, go follow Kate and go listen to the podcast and follow her on Instagram. She's really great on there and puts such good content on there. Because I think we all, like you said, like we all need a little inspiration every once in a while.
Yes, we do, for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. So fun. It's great to see you.
All right. See you soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye.